for clicking in. My name is Maveline Mafo, and if you're new to this channel, welcome. For those of you who've been here before, I want to say thank you for stopping by once again, and thank you all for sticking around. So guys, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you all tips and tricks on crushing your au pair visa interview at the embassy and getting yourself that visa. Okay, so please do stay tuned. But before I get into this video, guys, please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, just take a minute and go right down and hit the red subscribe button. Turn on your notification bell as well so that you get updates on my subsequent uploads. And please do not forget to share the videos. In the very first part of this video, I'm basically going to give you the tips which you would need for this interview, or the tips which you need to crush this interview. And in the next part of the video, I'm going to talk to you about or I'm going to give you a few questions that are generally asked during this interview. Okay, so please do stay tuned. The very first tip I have for you is the fact that you need to be punctual for this interview. Okay, please do your very best to appear for your interview in time. By in time, I mean at least 15 minutes before this interview. So let's say, for instance, you have an interview at 10 a.m. in the morning. You want to make sure that you are available for this interview by 9:30 or 9:45 latest. Okay, going for this interview or any other interview late just shows that you are not serious about what you want to do and all of that. And by the way, Germans are very punctual, like as in if they tell you that we meet at 9, we meet at 9. Coming after 9 is like a bad idea. You don't want to do that. Or late for your appointment, it's a totally bad idea. So make sure not to do that, okay? And with that, guys, the next tip I'm giving you is the fact that you have to duplicate all documents you're bringing for your embassy appointment. By duplicating, I mean that, for instance, if you have an original copy here, you make 2 extra copies of that document. Like every document you're bringing for that appointment, you need an original and 2 copies for every document, okay? Please do not forget to do that. It's very important, as you'll be requested those 2 copies when you get there for the appointment. So do well to keep that in mind. The next thing I will talk about is the fact that you need to work a little bit on your German. Try to practice some German before you show up for this interview, okay? Mostly it's advisable to try to speak a little bit of German during this interview. So you need to try to practice a lot before you show up for the interview. Okay, and with that said, guys, next tip I bring to you is the fact that you have to be really confident when you go for this interview. Not just for the au pair visa interview, but I think confidence is a general thing for any interview you go for. You need to show that you're confident enough, you know what you're up for and all of that to be able to get this visa. Do not panic. Do not let the questions scare you. Do not let the way they're looking at you to scare you or any of that. Just be confident and, you know, bold and respectful at the same time, and you'll be sure to get yourself that visa. Be confident. The next point I'm talking about is the fact that you need to look good when you appear for this interview. Yes, guys. Generally, going for interviews entails putting on one of the best you have. You know, showing up all neat, you know, clean and all of that is really important. You don't want to show up maybe looking shabby for an interview, or I don't know, just looking more casual and all of that. Okay, so do well to look good for this interview, and maybe smell fresh for the interview as well. With that, guys, those are like the tips I had for you on showing up for your visa interview. Now I'm going to move into the next part of the video, where I'm going to be giving you like general questions which are mostly asked during this interview. Okay, I kind of like put together a few questions that they mostly asked during the Aupair visa interview. Like a lot of people have been asked this particular question, so I decided I'm going to share them today with you all, and you know, kind of show you how to tackle such questions. Okay, so please stay tuned. So the very first question you get asked when you go for this interview is for you to introduce yourself, right? They're going to ask you to introduce yourself or talk a little bit about yourself. And guys, here's a tip. Try as much as you can to introduce yourself in German, okay? That's going to put you one step ahead than when you introduce yourself in English, right? This is because you were required an A1 document for a reason, an A1 language certificate for a reason. This A1 language certificate, basically, the goal is for you to be able to introduce yourself in German and say a few things, you know, about you in German. So I promise you, it can't be that hard. Just try to, you know, practice a little bit, even if you have to cram these things. Go ahead and do them, but do well to introduce yourself in German because it gives you a plus than when you introduce yourself in English or whatever language it is that you speak. And equally, you could go ahead by telling them that you would love to introduce yourself in German, but you would equally wish to continue the rest of your interview in English, or in English. But I would insist on the fact that you go ahead and introduce yourself in German. This will show them that you're really interested, you know, you are really up for whatever it is you came for and all of that. So just go ahead. It can't be that hard, even if you have to cram those few sentences. Just go ahead and, you know, cram those things and say them on the day of your interview, okay? You thank me later. And that's like the first question they would generally ask you. And after this question, the next question you would get is, why do you want to be an Aupair? Now, this must have been written somewhere in your motivation letter, because of course one of the requirements you get from the embassy for your visa appointment is a motivation letter stating why you want to be an Aupair and all of that. So this would be somewhere in your motivation letter, and of course they would have read this letter before asking you this question. So you want to go ahead and repeat whatever it is that you wrote in your motivation letter back to them, okay? Don't write one thing in your motivation letter and then you come and give them another reason why you want to be Aupair in Germany, okay? That might just make you look crazy or something. So when you get asked the question, why do you want to be an Aupair? Go ahead and repeat whatever it is that you wrote on your motivation letter to them, okay? Could have been that you want to be an Aupair because of your love for kids. You just go ahead and repeat all of that to them. With that said, the next question they generally would ask you is, why did you choose Germany for your Aupair? Of course, there are a lot of countries offering this similar program, right? There's like America, there is Austria, Switzerland, and a lot of countries do offer this program, right? So you have to give them your reasons for choosing Germany over these other countries, which I believe you should have stated in your motivation letter. So you're still going to go ahead and tell them the reason why you choose Germany. And this is where you get to talk about the German culture, the German people, the food, the beer. Sounds funny, but yeah, it's just a reality here, and all of that. We talk about all of these, you know, kind of tells the people that you know a little bit about where you're going. You've done some research, you know something about where you're going, you have some interest and all of that. The next question they might ask you is, tell us about your host family. Most often you get a question on something about your host family. It might be the names of your host parents, their ages, names of your host kids and their ages. So make sure that you have all of this in mind before going for that interview, okay? Because generally there is always like a question on this, so try to know all of that information before you go for this interview, right? After talking about this question, the next question you might get would be a question on a few details about your contract. For instance, they might ask you how many hours do you work in a week, or how many hours are you supposed to work in a week or in a day, or just whatever. Something might come from your contract. So when you get this contract, try to know what's on it. I know that with an A1 level, you won't be able to do much like reading the entire contract and comprehending everything that's on it. But you can go ahead to, like, you know, when you talk to your host family, because of course when you find a host family on aupair.com or Aupair World, you communicate with them until you eventually get your visa and move over to them. So during the time that you communicate, you can ask them questions like, how often am I supposed to work? How many hours do I work in a month? How many hours do I work in a week? How many hours am I supposed to work in a day? All of that you can ask them when you talk with them and you jot them down. You know, just make notes on small things like that, because they might ask you a question on some details in your contract just to see if you actually went through your contract, or you know what it is that you're up against, or what you're going to do in Germany. So, you know, just try to know a few things about your contract so that you don't get shocked, okay? Nothing should come to you by surprise. Try to read the contract, or find someone, you know, who can go through your contract and give you a few explanations about what's actually on that contract. And with that, usually you might get a question on just to see how good you can be with kids, right? They can ask you like a question which has to do with an emergency situation, to see how you would handle that particular situation. All of that is just to see how good you can be with kids, or to actually know that you are capable of becoming an au pair, or you're actually able to work with kids, so to say. So you might get something about that, not necessarily, but you might get something about that, and try as much as possible to be able to give, you know, an accurate response to that, okay? Yeah. And then with that, I have two more questions which are generally asked but are very tricky, so I decided to talk about them last. So it's a good thing if you stayed watching this video up to this point. One of these questions will be, what's your contingency plan, or what's your plan B in case we deny you this visa? Guys, like I said, this is a very tricky question, right? You might get a question like that, like, what's your plan B in case we don't give you this visa? Now there's a tip I have for you on this particular question. Whatever you say in response to this question, do make sure your plan B is not stronger than your plan A, or your plan B does not completely knock off your plan A, okay? What's your plan A? Your plan A is coming to Germany to live and work as an au pair, right? Do make sure your plan B is like closely related to your plan A, which is coming and working in Germany as an au pair, or kind of correlated. For instance, your plan A cannot be coming to Germany to work with kids as an au pair, and your plan B is going back to the university to study marketing, or maybe do something business related or whatsoever. Okay, that doesn't these things don't work together, and it just tells the person interviewing you that you're probably coming to Germany to maybe do au pair and then eventually go ahead and study marketing or whatever it is that you talked about, and this would normally not get you that visa, okay? Because one of the reasons that they'll be giving you this visa is because they are sure that you're coming to Germany just for this program, this au pair program. And most often, you and I know that it's not just this program you'll be coming for. You'll be looking to do more after your au pair. So you don't want to jeopardize your chances of getting the visa and coming as an au pair, okay? So do make sure that your plan B has something to do with your plan A, or it ties with your plan A. practical example, I wouldn't want to give an example because someone might just use it in the interview, and of course it's not a bad idea, but I would prefer you develop your plan B by yourself, okay, which ties with your plan A. But a practical example could be, in case you don't get a visa, you're going to go back and continue studying the language, for instance, maybe up to B1 or A2, something like that, and then you try again later to become an au pair. That's like, you know, a very good response to this question, which kind of works with, you know, your plan A, which is coming to be an au pair in Germany. I am taking some time to, you know, really elaborate on this particular one because it's like amongst one of the questions that determines whether you get a visa or not, okay? And one thing I'm going to tell you all guys, try to be consistent with your answers, because I'm of the opinion that these people are psychologists, right? So you should be really careful with your responses and make sure that you're consistent with your responses. They might ask you one question in 3 different ways, so to say, just to get your responses. So stick to your answers. Make sure your answers are the same every now and then. Don't find another way to ask you a particular question and another way, just to see what your responses will be. So try to stay like consistent to the answers you're giving them, okay? And with that, the next question I'm going to touch on, which is a really tricky one as well, and it can go a long way to determine if you get this visa or not, is this question: what do you want to do after your au pair? This is what they'll ask you, like, what are your plans after your au pair? Guys, like I said, this is another tricky question, and it can determine whether you get this visa or not. No matter what you say, guys, do make sure that there is no staying in Germany after my au pair, for instance. Anywhere in your response, like there should be nothing in your response that has to do with, oh, I'll stay in Germany after my au pair and, you know, get involved in this program, go to the university, do something. You just get kicked off, my sister. So what you want to do, you want to make sure that you stick to the fact that you are coming to Germany just for au pair and au pair alone. Any other thing that has to do with staying in Germany or doing something else in Germany is none of your business, guys. The moment you even come and start saying that, oh, you want to study, you want to do this or that, you get kicked off. So make sure your response is home. Like after your au pair, you're going home. Of course, they do know that most often you come to Germany as au pair, but you don't go home, or you get to do other things like going to the uni and all of that. They do know that, right? They know. But you don't want to come and sit down and tell them that, oh, after my au pair, I want to study. You're not going to get the visa, bro. So just go ahead and tell them you're here for au pair, and, you know, or you're coming here for au pair, and, you know, that's all you need to say. Get your visa. Please don't go and complicate things for yourself, okay? So guys, those are like my tips and tricks I put together for you on getting your au pair visa interview validated and, you know, getting that visa to move to Germany. Please, if you did enjoy this video, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay?
Subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell so that you get update on subsequent video updates on this channel,
and then you can easily watch them, okay? And if you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to give it that thumbs up, share this video with your family and friends, and do leave questions in the comment section on anything it is that you want to know about au pair, or any questions you have in the comment section, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can, okay? And equally, if you have like contribution that has to do with, you know, au pair and related stuff, do go ahead and leave them in the comment section as well. Thank you guys for sticking up to this point, and I'll see you all in my next video. Until then, stay safe, guys. Ciao.